December 15th, 1985. Inside a Washington, D.C. convention center. The air smells like expensive cigars and cheap champagne. 100 men are laughing, clinking glasses, and high-fiving cheerleaders. They think they have just hit the lottery. They have been told they won free tickets to the sold-out Redskins-Bengals game. The hottest seat in town. They have no idea that every waiter serving them mimosas, every cheerleader hugging them at the door, and every smiling usher in a tuxedo is an undercover U.S. Marshal carrying a concealed Sig Sauer in exactly 45 seconds. A man in a top hat will step to the microphone. He won't be announcing a raffle winner. He will be delivering the worst news of their lives. You are all under arrest. At that moment, the side doors will explode open. 25 tactical officers will flood the room with weapons drawn, and 101 of the city's most dangerous fugitives, murderers, drug kingpins, and armed robbers will watch their freedom vanish in slow motion. No, here is the insane part. These criminals did not stumble into this trap. They replied to it. They RSVP'd. They actually thanked the Marshals for the invitation. How did the government trick the most paranoid people on Earth into arresting themselves? And what does this 1,980-second sting teach us about the high-tech cybercrime documentaries of today? I am your host, and you are watching The Digital Sleuth. Today, we are deconstructing Operation Flagship, the greatest social engineering hack in law enforcement history. To understand why the U.S. Marshals resorted to a masquerade ball, you have to understand the crisis of 1985. Nationwide, there were 250,000 fugitives on the run. In D.C. alone, hundreds of violent offenders were living in the open. In neighborhoods where patrol cars did not even slow down, every time a deputy marshal knocked on a door to serve a warrant, they were playing a lethal game of Russian roulette. If you chase criminals one by one, you run out of deputies before you run out of criminals. It was not law enforcement. It was attrition. Chief Deputy Toby Roche and District Marshal Herbert Rutherford needed a way to aggregate their targets. They needed a force multiplier. Sitting in a diner one night, Roche saw a muted TV 50 daughters showing the Washington Redskins. They were 7-1, crushing toward the playoffs. In a city torn apart by the crack epidemic, the Redskins were the only thing everyone loved. Roche grabbed a napkin and sketched out a plan that violated every traditional principle of policing. He did not want to kick down doors. He wanted to build a fake company. He called it Flagship International Sports Television. Notice the acronym FIST. Matching the Marshals' Fugitive Investigative Strike Team. This was the 1985 version of a phishing attack. Today, a cybercriminal might send you an email saying your Netflix account is suspended to steal your login. In 1985, the Marshals sent 3,000 high-quality, embossed letters to the last known addresses of the city's most wanted. It told them they had won a V.I.P. brunch and a trip to Super Bowl 20. Critics laughed. They said, "You are going to invite murderers to brunch. They are too smart for that." But Roche knew something that modern hackers know today. Greed overrides the survival instinct. In the world of cybersecurity, we call this social engineering. It is the art of manipulating people into performing actions or divesting confidential information. Whether it is a fake football ticket or an urgent Bitcoin recovery scam on the dark web, The psychological trigger is the same. The victim is made to feel special, lucky, or panicked. The marshals were not just offering tickets. They were offering the one thing life on the run strips away: the feeling of being a winner. By late November, the flagship invitations were in the mail. Then, silence. For 2 weeks, the marshals sat by the phones. Had they been made? If a single criminal realized Flagship International did not exist, the word would spread through the streets like wildfire. Then, the phone rang. A man wanted for armed robbery confirmed his attendance. He even asked if he could bring a +1. The deputy on the line, fighting back a laugh, told him, "The more the merrier." "Sir," the floodgates opened. 160 fugitives replied. Some even bragged to their parole officers about their luck. But the technical execution of this sting had to be flawless. This was not just about a letter. It was about the physical security protocol. If one person smelled a cop, the ballroom would become a slaughterhouse. The marshals brought in 166 officers from across the country. These were strangers the local criminals would not recognize. They underwent theatrical training. They had to learn how to carry croissant trays without their hands instinctively drifting toward their waistbands. They even used biometric-adjacent security. Remember the cheerleaders. Their job was to greet every arrival with a massive, enthusiastic hug. In those 3 seconds of celebration, the female deputies were performing a full-body frisk. They were feeling for the cold steel of a .38 special or the outline of a knife. If the guest was clean, they got a blue name tag. If they were dirty or high risk, they were flagged as double winners. That was a code that told the tactical teams to shadow them closely. This is exactly how modern zero-trust architecture works in cybersecurity. You do not assume someone is safe just because they have an invitation or a password. You verify them at the perimeter. You monitor their behavior inside the network. And you isolate the high-risk assets. As the morning of December 15th arrived, the ballroom was a powder keg of irony. You had Charles Watkins, one of D.C. top 10 most wanted killers, standing near a buffet, debating football stats with an undercover Fed. You had drug kingpins posing for photos with a man in a chicken costume. The marshals had achieved the impossible. They had convinced 100 predators to walk into a cage and close the door themselves. At 1000 a.m., the music died. Louis McKinney, the M.C. in the top hat, tapped the mic. The room went silent. 100 men looked up, expecting to hear about their trip to the Super Bowl. You are all under arrest. The confusion lasted about 2 seconds. Then the doors burst open. The waiters dropped their trays and pulled their weapons. The ushers slammed fugitives into the carpet. In under 4 minutes, 101 of the most dangerous men in Washington were in zip ties. Not a single shot was fired. This remains a legendary case study. But it is also a warning. Operation Flagship worked because it exploited human vulnerability. In the decades since, that ballroom has moved to the digital realm. Today, we see internet mysteries where entire companies are brought down not by complex hacks, but by a single employee clicking a link. They click because they think they are getting a bonus or a free gift card. It is the same bait. The mechanics of financial fraud have evolved from fake ticket companies to dark web scams involving pig butchering. This is where scammers build months of trust with a victim before convincing them to invest their life savings into a fake crypto platform. In our modern cybercrime documentary landscape, we see cases where the trap is much more invisible. But the psychological bait is identical to what Toby Roche sketched on that napkin in 1985. So, what can we learn from a bunch of 80 seconds criminals eating cold scrambled eggs before going to jail? The lesson is that the human is the weakest link. Whether you are a fugitive in 1985 or a C.E.O. in 2025, your biggest threat is not a battering ram or a sophisticated virus. It is your own desire to get something for nothing, to protect yourself in the digital age. You need to adopt a flagship mindset. First, verify the source. If a deal seems too good to be true, whether it is football tickets or 100% return on Bitcoin, it is a trap. Second, inspect the acronyms. Just like the if US 10 team hid behind Flagship International. Modern scammers hide behind slightly misspelled U.R.L.S. Third, beware the hug. In the digital world, the hug is the unsolicited helpful DM or the urgent tech support call. They are not trying to help you. They are frisking you for information. Finally, use multi-factor authentication. Think of this as the locked doors at the convention center. Even if a fugitive gets inside, they should not be able to move through the rest of your life without a second layer of verification. Operation Flagship was a masterpiece because it proved that you do not need a gun to catch a killer. You just need to understand how his mind works. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the intersection of physical stings and social engineering, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are going to be covering more cybercrime documentaries and unraveling the world's most complex digital mysteries. I am your host, and this has been the Digital Sleuth. Stay skeptical, stay secure, and I will see you in the next investigation.